Hello and welcome back to Mike C Music. And as you can tell by the title, we ain't doing gaming videos, we ain't doing skateboard videos, we're doing music. That's why it's called Mike C Music. The last video was all a gag. I knew what I was gonna do from the start. Got you guys good. So today, as you can tell by the title, we're gonna be comparing and possibly contrasting two very, very popular artists, Kanye West and David Bowie. And knowing these two artists, I can't review them looking like this. I gotta be fresh and stylish. Well, give me a sec. Now we can get into the video.
That's the color of my room where I will live. Blue, blue. Pale blinds drawn all day. Nothing to read, nothing to say.
So before we get started, we need to go through a bit of a vocab lesson. So dad rock is a term that describes pop music from the 60s and 70s that people, usually boomers or kids pretending that go around saying that they were born in the wrong generation, claim is the pinnacle of music, and that music as an art form has been all downhill since then. These people will constantly listen to the same artists and songs over and over again for decades, and then just act like they have better taste than everybody else because they listen to the oldest music. So I challenge you, go on any song from the past 5 years on YouTube, check the comments, and there will be hundreds and hundreds of kids just talking about how much modern music sucks, or it's all downhill, why I miss 2012 back when music was good. So this reminds me a lot of old heads in hip hop. Don't fuck with any new rap or trap artists just because their lyrics aren't deep enough to satisfy their massive IQs. Old heads have been proven to damage the culture by trying to stagnate the natural progression just because they want every single album to sound like Illmatic. So let's get back on topic of dad rockers. Kanye seems to be the primary target of these people due to his eccentric personality, his massive ego, we all know about it, and his absurd lines that are intended to be humorous but taken out of context can be a little off-putting, like the whole bleached asshole line on Life of Pablo. That's pretty weird, the whole hoop-de-scoop on his newest single. The Kanye hatred got so bad in 2016, these dad rockers, that over 5,000 people signed petitions to prevent Kanye from making a tribute album to Bowie, which was just a rumor that was quickly debunked. So like a couple days and they got that many people that angry that Kanye was gonna pay respects to someone. So all this is, I find, super ironic, given that Bowie, the person many of these people idolize, saw that the future of popular music lied with black artists.
We're saying that the only people in the music business now, in your opinion, who were being truly creative were the rappers.
Yes, I believe that's so.
Do you think most others have just sold out to commercialism?
Well, it's not that
the
so much. I don't think that it's that so much. I think that the white generation have come of age. In fact, they're part of the administration now. They're people that brought rock and roll to us in its white form. I think that the quality and the significance of the social message has moved very much fundamentally to the black and Hispanic market now. And that's where the new force of music is coming from. White music is as fragmented as society is itself.
So as many of you probably know, music was invented in 1960 by none other than the Beatles. And the Beatles consisted of Paul McCartney and 3 other guys that nobody knows by name, and I don't think we'll ever know. A fun fact about the Beatles is that Beatles is actually misspelled and it's spelled B-E-A-T, and that's a reference to how one of the members used to beat his wife. So yeah, when they invented music, Bowie saw that as an opportunity to jump into this new fad and see where it could take him. Because he originally wanted to be in Broadway, but no, music was better because it's like Broadway, but you don't have to write dialogue, you can have cool characters, and that's what he did. So the first massive comparison that I think can be made between David Bowie and Kanye West is that they both had a long streak of commercially successful albums that also, eventually, even if it's not upon release, received critical praise. So, and not only that, every single one of their albums almost had a huge influence on the sound of modern music for their respective time periods. Bowie's first album was released in 1967, just 7 years after music was invented, and it was a huge flop because it was garbage, it wasn't good, it was not fun to listen to. I listened to it 3 times just for this video, actually, and just to refresh my memory. I've already listened to it, obviously, because I'm a heckin' nerd, but yeah, it's garbage, it's not good, and I don't suggest listening to it. The end. But 2 years later, Bowie learned what melody and lyrics were, and he made another self-titled album called David Bowie, the sequel to David Bowie. And it was a very good album because it had his first major hit, Space Oddity.
Stars look very different today. For here am I sitting in a tin can, far above the world. Planet Earth is blue, and there's nothing.
In Bowie's second
left
album, he really took advantage of the whole public's focus on the space race, because that was nearing the end when America finally got a man on the moon, when Buzz Aldrin and no one else took a step on the moon. And that was very impressive, even though it was faked. Probably not, but yeah, he had a lot of space themed, and he kept that space theme for a while, with Ziggy being an alien, his hit film being A Man Who Fell to Earth, which is a alien.
Nothing you have seen or heard about David Bowie will prepare you for the impact of his first dramatic performance in The Man Who Fell to Earth. This is another dimension of David Bowie, one of the few true originals of our time.
You're really a freak.
So in 1970, Bowie released The Man Who Sold the World, which I personally don't care for that much. I feel like it's a little overrated. I'm just missing something. It's kind of hard rock. Kurt Cobain listed it as his favorite Bowie album, or one of his favorite albums of all time, actually, in his list. Especially, I could see a lot of influence on how Nirvana sounded, but I'm not a Nirvana fan, so it doesn't really affect me. Like, I like In Utero, I like Bleach. I like Nevermind. I just don't like. I don't see the hype. That's because I'm a normie. But yeah. So I would say the highlight is the self-titled track, the Man Who Sold the World. But then after that, you go to 1971, and he released Hunky Dory. And a lot of Ziggy Stardust was recorded at the same time as Hunky Dory. But Hunky Dory is very stripped back. It's easy on the ears. It's good to listen to. There's some good good lyrics on it. Like, it talks about the Homo superior. I find it pretty weird that he decided to cover a Charles Darwin song from like the 1800s. But other than that, it's pretty good. Like, I'll show you the song he covered.
Natural selection means each animal evolved to blend with its surroundings. Changes were involved, so birds with different foods to seek seem to have developed different beaks.
Hunky Dory, I think I really like it. I'm not gonna downplay it at all. I think it's like a 9 out of 10. It's great. Like, I like Quicksand, the Bowie brothers. Life on Mars, of course, is a great song. Kooks is probably one of the worst tracks. Andy Warhol has a pretty wacky introduction to it. Yeah, every song on it's memorable, and I love it. It's not as good as Ziggy. So the main thing about Bowie is that he would just constantly change his look. He would constantly reinvent himself. He had an array of characters throughout time. So he started off with no character. He was just a boring old English boy, and no one likes English boys. But then, 1972, he had the great idea of inventing Ziggy Stardust. So Ziggy Stardust is what many would call his magnum opus. Hey, Mike, I gave it my first, not my only anymore, but my first perfect score on rateyourmusic.com. Follow me, Mike_Connor. Because it's one of the earliest concept albums in mainstream, especially because that was pretty rare. Even though the concept's pretty loose, there's only a couple songs tying it together, like 5 Years, Starman, Moon Age Daydream, sort of, and Rock and Roll Suicide are all like the story songs. And then I wouldn't say Soul Love or anything has anything to do with the story. They just slap hard, my dude, especially for 70s. Like, those are the turn-up songs. But yeah, Ziggy Stardust was the character that put him on the map, and he didn't want to get stuck with it. He killed it off instantly, and everyone's like, "Why'd you kill Ziggy?" It was stupid. No, because Ziggy was sort of named after his homie Iggy, but he was like, "I need to make it more space and alien," because he was eccentric. So eccentric that he is the one credited with making glam rock cool. So not only did he make glam rock cool, but he also made new wave. He targets that in his later albums because he hates the new wave boys. They don't even love him. Yeah. But Ziggy Stardust, he's created that character because I wasn't joking when I said he wanted to do Broadway. That was his main goal. But he's not an academic. He didn't do well in English. He didn't want to worry about dialogue or anything like that. So he just thought, I'm really creative and talented with music, so I should just pursue that and go with what I can do. And it obviously worked for him. So now we're going to get into the conspiracy theory portion of this video. It's not really conspiracy because I think it's proven. If you look at the cover of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders of Mars, look at the sign. What does it say? K West? Remind you of anyone titled in this video? Yeah, Kanye West. Yeah, so that's a little strange, don't you think? So then his first song, 5 Years. Wow, it's really talking about, in the song, it's talking about the end of the year and how there's going to be a rock star that's gonna, well, Starman says there's going to be a rock star that will come save the earth. Wow, what happened 5 years from that album release date? Just under 5 years, I think? Same month, June, 5 years later. Kanye West was birthed by Donda West. He was born, and yeah, so he's a psychic person who can predict the future, which is cool. So yeah, and Kanye West is the star man. He's one of the most influential. He's this generation's closest thing to Einstein. He said it himself, and he's right. So after Ziggy Stardust, Bowie followed it up with Aladdin Sane, and man, I think Bowie thought he was pretty clever with this one, but Aladdin Sane, it's Alad Insane, get it? He's pretty funny. Yeah, this is, people kind of say it's Ziggy Stardust Part 2. That's where Aladdin Sane is actually where he has the lightning bolt costume that a lot of people confuse with Ziggy Stardust, but Aladdin Sane is a continuation, so I don't get too mad when people get confused with it. But Aladdin Sane, a lot more piano driven. Like songs like Time, I love. Like, it has a crazy piano solo throughout the entire thing. It's like, I'm not even gonna emulate it with my mouth. It's so good. Just listen to it yourself. I'm gonna try to minimize the copyright music I have, but I'm gonna have to show it with some of the future albums I'm gonna talk about because I fucking love it. So David Bowie had two main crew members, Iggy Pop and Lou Reed. It's kind of like how Kanye West is BFFs with Jay-Z and Kid Cudi, something like that. So he originally got in contact with Iggy Pop because of his very unsuccessful but very influential proto-punk band, The Stooges. Iggy and The Stooges. Everyone knows about them now. I hope. They're good. Check them out. But yeah, Bowie was a huge fan, even though many of the contemporaries didn't really understand it because it was crude. Like one of the songs is "I Want to Be Your Dog." Is Iggy a furry? What the heck? That's disgusting. But yeah, so one of the first times we see Iggy and Bowie collab, this CD right here. It's called Raw Power. It's the third studio album by the Stooges, and it was originally mixed and mastered by Bowie in one day, because Iggy he made his own mix and master, and the record company just said, no, fuck off, it's terrible. So they got Bowie to do it in one day. It was also bad, and it was terrible for 20 years. I'll show you the difference between the Bowie mix, and this is the 1996 remix, the done by Iggy. The 1996 remaster of this album, however, done by Iggy Pop, is Guinness World Record loudest album of all time. Just because, if you've ever heard of Loudness War, basically, Iggy maxed out all of the mix, everything. When you go on like Audacity or Ableton or Fruity Loops and you see that something goes into the red zone, I'll show like a little animation of it right here. That's when it's peaking, it's capping, it's getting distorted. You don't want that. But Iggy wanted that because he wanted the rawness. He wanted the good anger. Like, he doesn't want something polished. Like Bowie is very polished all the time. He wanted something complete, something beautiful. It's like My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy Kanye, where it just had to be perfect. But Iggy is more like Yeezus Kanye. He just wanted it loud. He wanted it abrasive. And it worked. And this is the 1996 remix is one of my favorite albums of all time. It's a 9 out of 10. Check it out. So just like how Bowie produced Lou Reed's album Transformer, and he produced Lust for Life, and what's that other album called? The Idiot. Can't believe I forgot my favorite Iggy album. Kanye, especially recently, has been on a bit of a streak of producing other people's albums. He's, right now, which I think is freaking awesome, he's making every single week seven song albums that are all almost entirely produced by him. He has Mike Dean, but Bowie had Tony Visconti helping him a lot. But yeah, Kanye's produced Daytona for Pusha T. He's produced his own album. He produced Kids See Ghosts, which is basically a Cudi album. He produced the new Teyana Taylor album, which is really good. You should check it out. It's a little off track, but in Hurry, the song that he's actually rapping on, he samples Kim K's sex tape, but it's not him having sex with. Kanye is a cuck. That's all I have to say. He's sampling his wife having sex with another man, just to get some cool moaning effects. It's pretty cool, but I would like record fresh moaning. I don't know, but yeah, Kanye has been on a roll of producing albums. It's amazing, and he is a really good producer. He has a good ear for music, just like Bowie did in the 70s. and later in the 90s. 1974, there was Diamond Dogs. Man, oh man, I feel like this, other than Pinups, which never came out, Diamond Dogs, I feel like it kind of ruins his streak of perfect albums, my man. The album cover is disturbing, to say the least. It's just wacky. And there's some good songs, like I like 1984. I like Rebel Rebel, that's a huge hit. And yeah, and then he followed that up with Young Americans, which is another one I'm not too fond of. But then we get Station to Station, which is the Bees Beneath, and introduced the Thin White Duke character, also known as his Aryan Ubermensch, a cult leader, fascist, anorexic, coke-driven character, which wasn't actually a character, it was actually just him at the time, where he endorsed Hitler at the time. He said Britain really could use a fascist leader. And can you imagine someone thinking that a dictator is a good idea for a European country ever? Wow. I know an Italian who thinks it's a good idea. I think he's retarded. But yeah. But in Station to Station, it's really well hidden, but it's his darkest album. It's by far his saddest, because he was doing so much coke, and I myself, I have a bit of a coke addiction too, so I know what it's like. But he was doing bowls of coke. I'm just doing liter bottles of it, and after all that coke, he couldn't even remember what he was doing. He wouldn't sleep for 7 days, and he can't remember recording Station to Station. And I think it's one of his best, but I think every single one of his albums is one of his best. And he has 24, I think. Man, this dude's crazy. Yeah, but it's a crazy album. It's really piano driven. It's really grand. It's short. It's only 38 minutes, and the album cover is a screenshot from his Man Who Fell to Earth movie. But yeah, I suggest checking it out. It's not the one you dive in first, though. It's definitely, you have to know who Bowie is as a person and really be into his character to really appreciate it. I would compare it to Kanye's 808s and Heartbreak, where he's in the lowest point of his life, because Kanye, his mother just died after the plastic surgery that he paid for, and he broke up with his girlfriend, and Bowie was rejecting his own family, his son, Bowie. His name isn't that anymore, thank God. Yeah, it's a very sad album, and he's crying for help, but no one notices it because it bops hard.
1975 and 1976, and a bit of 1974, and the first few weeks of 1977 were singularly the darkest days of my life. And I think it was so steeped in awfulness that recall is nigh on impossible, certainly painful. And I was concerned with questions like, do the dead interest themselves in the affairs of the living? Can I change the channel on my TV without using the clicker? Unwittingly, this next song was therefore a signal of distress. I'm sure that it was a call for help. It's called Word on a Wing, and it's from Station to Station.
So in 1977, both Iggy and Bowie moved together. They were roomies. They moved to Berlin to get out of LA, because holy smokes, that place has a lot of coke. So they decided to go way, way, way away from the coke, somewhere safe and away from all the drugs, somewhere that DARE programs are taught to all the children. So they went to West Berlin, also known as the smack capital of Europe. But yeah, no, that wasn't a problem for Bowie. He tried heroin, didn't like it, but Iggy was a recovering heroin addict, so that sucked for him. Yeah. But yeah, so Berlin, they learned about krautrock, which like artists like Can, especially Kraftwerk was a major artist, and they got Brian Eno, and more Tony Visconti to all collab and make the Berlin trilogy, which is Low, Heroes, and Lodger, which are all considered classics, the Berlin trilogy. And then Bowie helped create the 2 debut solo albums for Iggy Pop, The Idiot and Lust for Life. Yeah, and it was really productive. It was the most experimental. Like Bowie, for the first time, like has the first half of Low is just song ideas and like sections. It's like 2 minutes. They don't really develop, but they're all really well like crafted. They're all catchy. Like Sound and Vision's probably like that's the most recognizable. It's probably the one that's closest to a real song. And the second half of Low, it ambient, which is really weird for someone at the time, but that was where they got like the Kraftwerk inspiration. And Brian Eno worked on a couple of those songs. And yeah, so that was a really new direction. And then Heroes has the same structure where it's the first half is songs, second half is ambient. Except for The Secret Life of Arabia, which is a regular old song on the end of Heroes. Most people say Low is better just because it's closer to him coming to grips with solving that drug habit. And the album title Low, it's another reference to his life being so low. He was feeling down in the dumps. So another one of Bowie's massive hits was China Girl, which is a song he actually wrote for Iggy Pop put on his 1977 album, The Idiot. Iggy's version, hate to do this to my man's Bowie, but Iggy's version is so much better, so much more emotion. It wasn't a hit though, because I'll compare the two so you can get your own idea, but I'll show a actual clip of both of the same portion of the song. But yeah, Iggy's version is one of my favorite songs of all times, and I don't even have Bowie's version saved on any of my Spotify playlists. What a loser.
I stumble into town just like a sacred cow. Visions of swastikas in my head. Plans for everyone. It's in the way of my eyes. I stumbled into town just like a sacred cow. Visions of swastikas in my head and plans for everyone. It's in the
Iggy Pop in 1977, thanks to Bowie, released 2 of the best albums I think I've ever heard. And The Idiot is a Bowie album. It just has Iggy singing on it, because Bowie wanted to experiment, do things, but he didn't want to use his own stuff. What? He wasn't gonna do wacky stuff on his own. But The Idiot, it's one of the darkest albums, and it's really synthetic. Like a lot of drum machines, which is kind of unheard of on the final take of an album this popular. And people say it's predates, and like it's brought on like gothic and industrial, the genre. The Idiot. And Joy Division lead singer Ian Curtis committed suicide while listening to The Idiot. Like I think it was the responders went to his house and found it still playing on his record player. Yeah, but it's a really fucking depressing album, and it's crazy, it's repetitive, it puts you into like a trance, it's weird. But then his next album that was completely Iggy dominated, the next Iggy album, Lust for Life, complete opposite. It's a bunch of pop jingles, and you've probably heard them all, and like Trainspotting was a movie that used a lot of Iggy's songs just because drugs. So after the extremely experimental Berlin trilogy, or as I prefer to call it, the 4 albums, 2 of them Bowie, 2 Iggy, Lodger doesn't exist, not that good. After all that, Bowie wanted to try something more commercial again, but still keep some of the experimental stuff he learned in Berlin. So when he moved back to the US of A, out of the gross Germany, he made Scary Monsters and Super Creeps. This album is a hoot and a half. I'm a fan, you should be too. So this album, 10-track album, it has Japanese words on it, it has clowns in it, it's very good. But other than that, so its hit song is Ashes to Ashes, and people thought, wow, the 80s sure are gonna be a good year for Bowie, he's gonna be great this year. He didn't do so hot after this album. This album made me excited for the 80s when it was first marathoned his discography. But yeah, after this was his 1983 Let's Dance. It has a few good songs, and all the good songs were songs he already wrote in the 70s and just never released to the public. Yeah, and then he went through what he called his Phil Collins year. He was selling out stadiums. He had a massive audience, and you're just wondering, what are you guys doing there? I'm ass. Stop coming to my concerts. And he knew he was bad. He wasn't making albums for himself. He was making it for the fans. So he sacrificed. But during this time, he did release a pretty cool movie called The Labyrinth, where he played the wizard guy. I don't know. I've never seen the movie. But it has the cool song Magic Dance. I'm really a fan of that one.
What kind of magic spell to use? Slime and snails, or puppy dog tails, thunder or lightning.
And baby said,
Dance, magic dance, magic dance, magic dance, magic dance. Baby spell jump, magic jump, magic jump, magic jump, magic jump, magic jump on me. Slap that baby, make him pay.
90s Bowie. Man, oh man, we're getting good. We're getting there. We're getting to the good stuff. He did a really long-winded like science fiction concept album. Not that good, but you could tell that he had passion for it, and he wasn't doing it for the fans, because no one was like, yo Bowie, I need this 2-hour sci-fi epic, please. No one was like that. But it's good. It has a lot of, it's like eerie. It kind of reminds me of like the Deus Ex, the original Deus Ex soundtrack, kind of. Or it's just like robot, beep boop. It's not too bad. I'm a fan, but yeah, it has No Control, so it's just a good track. And he also has I forget what the name of the album is, where he's like, he's standing something like that. I don't know what it's called, I don't remember. It has I'm Afraid of Americans, which is a track I can relate to, because I know an American guy and I'm scared of him. But yeah, and it kind of has like a 9 Inch Nails kind of sound, but like a little lighter. I'm not a huge 9 Inch Nails fan. I like their genre. There's some good songs, but I'm more of a like Coils. I like that kind of industrial, and Fetus, Scraping Fetus Off the Wheel, even though the name seems a little crude. They're very good. I prefer it over 9 Inch Nails, because Trent Reznor scares me. And often overlooked collab that Bowie did was with Arcade Fire in 2003. And as you can see by my fresh copy of Neon Bible, which is a very good album. I love Arcade Fire. And he did a whole live show performing songs from their album Funeral, which is very good. You should check that out. But yeah, he performs, and Arcade Fire helps perform some of his songs, and it's one of his last major performances, because that was after Heathens, his 2002 album. He never reached quite his heights in the 70s. A lot of people say, oh, it's because he wasn't doing drugs anymore. Drugs are bad, kids. Nice try. But yeah. So it's kind of. So a lot of people are trying to tell him, boy, you should do drugs. Your music's good again. No, don't tell a junkie that. That's bad. Yeah, he fought with alcoholism his entire life. He got to the point in like the 90s where he didn't even drink any alcohol. Didn't have he wouldn't have a single glass of wine for celebrations, because he knew he's an alcoholic. It's like the kiss of death. And then, so yeah, he got his music, and a lot of people generally accept that 2016 Black Star, his best album since Scary Monsters and Super Creeps. And it's 30 years or 36 years, and it was good. It wasn't even a rock album. That's why a lot of his original fans were like, huh? But it was. I'm a fan. It was jazz. It takes a little bit to get used to, because jazz, people don't actually like jazz. They just pretend to like it to get some street credentials. But yeah, Black Star, obvious reference to Kanye. He's a black star. Yeah, it's a pretty sad album. He knew he was gonna die. It's a song about death, but apparently he didn't know or it's an album about death, but he didn't know he was that close to death. Like, he knew he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, but he actually he thought he had a couple more months, but he just died right before the release, which is very sad. But it's a great album. It's probably the best parting gift ever given by any artist. Like, there's artists like Lou Reed, Bowie's BFF, other than Iggy, of course, that his last album was considered his worst, and it's really sad. Like his Metallica collab album, Lulu. Not many people are a fan of that one. Yeah, Lou Reed, his legacy's pretty good, so you can't really complain with the Velvet Underground. But he also had pancreatic cancer, so a lot of people have been attributing all these deaths, even though they're pretty late in their lives. They're old now, but they're like a lot to do with their early years catching up with them. Don't do coke. Like, the sugar content's ridiculous. Don't do it. And yeah, Iggy Pop is the last of the sacred. I'm gonna get both my quotation marks in here. The sacred triangle that people will talk about the three artists that dominated the they were like the level below mainstream, because Bowie was the only one that was an international superstar at the time of their album release. Another fun fact about Bowie is that he was very, very open about his bisexuality, which is unheard of at the time, because even being gay was considered this wacky taboo thing. Like, what the heck, you can't like dick. And but Bowie, he liked both the girls and the boys. That's pretty weird, but he's only ever married the girls. He only sleeps with the boys. So there's been rumors about him and Iggy Pop being more than BFFs, and him with Mick Jagger. That was one that Angie Bowie talked about. But yeah, that was really unheard of, and I think it really helped him like bring out this eccentric side. And just like Bowie, I don't know if you're gay, can you be metrosexual, or is that just gay? That's probably offensive to someone, but metrosexual, they're both Kanye and Bowie are both very, very fashionable people. They both constantly reinvent their styles. Like, I'm gonna show you a little. This is Kanye's evolution of his look, with the little teddy bear that he used in the start, and then there's a little like square of Bowie's different looks. Oh, man, But yeah, fashion played a huge role in both of their lives. Like Kanye, in particular, they both ended stereotypes. They think like rock isn't all about those '60s bowl cuts. Yuck. He brought fashion and style into it. And Kanye, he was like, people credit him with kind of ending the bling era and the gangster rap. He showed up to his first performance with a Louis V backpack, a pink polo, and I have a pink polo just like Kanye. And yeah, he was Kanye is a bit of a character, but yeah, he only designer stuff. That's why he got into, and he's a fashion designer now with the Yeezys and his $300 shirt, which I'm still is convinced this $300 white shirt, which is a plain white tee. I think that's his way of getting rich people to dress the same as us poor people. Even though I'm like middle class gangster. Yeah, so they're both, fashion was a huge part of both of their lives. So all in all, I think people, especially critics of Kanye and who are also super fans of Bowie, are kind of missing the point. It's all about the music, man. It's all about the music. But yeah, I love both of these artists. Like when I'm saying dad rockers Kanye, I'm not being derogatory at all to Bowie. I think he's great. Like and I also think Kanye is great. Like I might make me sound like a turbo normie, but I really, really love these two men. I would ship them. Just kidding, Kanye shouldn't cheat on Kim. That would be bad. So if anyone wants to complain about how my room looks super yellow, white light bulbs are too expensive for me, and I'm recording all this at night. Just because I had all these ideas in my head, I wanted to get them out. I didn't want to wait until tomorrow, and then I wouldn't be able to sleep. I have all these ideas. I'm crazy like that. So I just had to make the video right now, even though the lighting isn't good. Like when I started this video, as you can tell with the intro, it was like 5:30, so the sun was like, it had another 10 minutes, so it wasn't like I'm staying up all night making this video. Even though future me, who's editing this video, haha sucks to be you, it's probably like midnight. But yeah, thanks. Please subscribe. I have 10 subscribers, which is pretty impressive. I might do a 20 subscriber special if you guys keep clicking on that button, but only once, because if you click twice it doesn't count. And thanks for watching, man, it means a lot.